to another video. I hope you all had a great Christmas yesterday. I know we did. It was a very full day, but very tiring, even though we never left the house, never went anywhere, but still, Christmas with kiddos, all the new toys, wanting to play with everything. It was a super great day, but I was exhausted at the end of it. And today is the 26th. So yeah, hoping you guys had just as good of a Christmas and moving forward into this new year with new hopes and aspirations. And I'm not much of a resolution person myself. I do like to set goals for the new year, but not really like a resolution. I seem to, like so many others, I fall off that bus real quick. Lasts maybe a month. But today, I wanted to talk about my birth story with Cassandra, who might just be waking up. Oh my goodness, I hope I can get this in. Both the girls are sleeping right now, and so I was hoping to film this while they were taking a nap. If I have to go get her, that's totally fine. I'm sure you'd love to see her again. How everything got started. If you followed my channel, you know that I've had 2 C-sections, and I will link both my birth story videos from Bruce and Libby in the description box below if you haven't seen those or you are interested. Actually, I have a 2-part, actually 3-part really, because I did do a birth vlog with Libby. So birth vlog, birth story. Bruce was just a birth story because I wasn't on YouTube at the time that I gave birth to him. And yeah, so I went back and did a birth story for him as well. So yes, jumping into Cassandra's birth. So back in January, when I found out I was pregnant, first question on my mind, are they going to even consider letting me try a VBAC again? Me and my midwives in. Is it going to be safe? Going into my first appointment, I was pretty sure the answer was going to be no. So I was mentally, emotionally prepared to hear no. You can't try again. You can't try a Tolac again. Just brief, like Spark Notes version, I was induced at 41 weeks with Bruce, my first baby. It was in labor for almost 36 hours. He was not descending, not engaging in my birth canal, and so he ended up having to be pulled out via C-section. I attempted Tolac with Libby, and I got to the point of pushing with her. I actually got to be able to push, which I was so excited about. But her heart rate, I believe it was, her heart rate was not taking it very well. Well, no, that's right, that was Bruce. I'm sorry, I'm getting my stories all mixed up. With Libby, I wasn't making any progression with the pushes. Like, she was coming down, going back down a little bit, going back up. She wasn't fully engaging with the birth canal. And so they came in, midwife did that with me for about half an hour, 40 minutes, called the doctor back in, because we weren't making any progress. Doctor examined me and said that my cervix had actually started to swell, and I had gone from 9.5 centimeters, almost complete. We have those pushes, we were trying to get that last half a centimeter out of Libby's way so she could come out. But they were, my cervix actually started to swell, so I was now at 5 centimeters. Couldn't push anymore. You can't push it on 5 centimeters. Suffice to say, that wasn't what I wanted to hear. Now, fortunately, her labor was not as long as Bruce's. Hers was only 28 hours. I know, that's still super long for labor. But yes, only 28 hours. And then another C-section. A little less tired during hers than I was during Bruce's, but still very tired. Sorry, so the stairwell light pop on behind me. That's the stairs to go downstairs. That we have automatic lights because there's no lighting in the stairwell, and it just helps. Especially at night, helps us not kill ourselves. But anyway, back on track with the birth story. Yes, going to my first appointment. So I was fully prepped to hear no. We're not going to even consider, we wouldn't even consider it. It's not safe. Especially since also I was only 11 months postpartum from Libby at the time that I got pregnant with Cassandra. So they recommend at least 18 months. 12 to 18 usually is the recommendation, but my particular midwifery recommends 18 months before attempting to become pregnant again. So yeah, I met with the midwife at the first appointment, and sure enough, exact same answer. She's like, no, we wouldn't endorse that, not at this practice, was the word she used. So I was like, that's all right. I was fully expecting that. Scheduled C-section. I've got 8.5 months left to prepare. That's pretty much where I was at that point. And for most of my pregnancy, that's where I was at, was just like, okay, I've been through this twice. I know what to expect. We're going to do this again. Then I think it was 34 weeks. I was 34 weeks pregnant. And I went in for my appointment. And the midwife who was seeing me at that appointment, she's also the high-risk midwife, the one who took care of most of the high-risk cases at the midwifery. She said she had something she wanted to talk to me about, and she said the hospital, the OB head, the head of obstetrics, the new head doctor who had come on was very pro VBAC. She'd recently assumed the head spot, I suppose, in the hospital's labor and delivery ward, and she was very pro VBAC, even after you've had 2 C-sections. Now, at the same time, very selective. There's a lot of boxes you have to check, a lot of things you have to hit in order to be considered. So what my midwife wanted to know was if that was something I would be interested in her talking to the OB team about. She knew that I was not exactly thrilled about having to have a C-section. I mean, I was taking it in stride. I wasn't upset or anything, but I've never cared for C-sections. I mean, it's major surgery. I'd rather be able to give birth naturally. So I kind of got excited, but I was like, whoa, can't get too excited. I tried to tell myself over and over, can't get too excited. The answer could still be no. But she had to have my permission to talk to the OBs about it. So yes, absolutely, I gave her my consent. Sorry, 1 second. I gotta get Cassandra. She's cranking up. Alright, so here we are. Okay, little Cassie has joined us now. Much happier. Mommy's holding her. So yeah, we were at the point where midwife had talked to me about potentially having the option to try VBAC. Fortunately, I only had to wait a week to find out the answer, and just like the 2 weeks that are part of the 2-week wait when you're trying to get pregnant, this week felt like the longest week. I just wanted to know, especially since like my other children, she was giving me lots of contractions. They started around 32, 33 weeks with her, whereas with Bruce, they was around 37 weeks, and Libby, it was at 27 weeks. Like, I'm not talking about Braxton Hicks. Like, I had Braxton Hicks starting at 15 weeks. These are real contractions. Sometimes they get closer together and stronger that end up just kaputting. I've had them all through my pregnancies. It is the most frustrating thing when you're just waiting for labor to start. I got the call from her, I believe it was almost exactly, it was like Monday morning, so almost a week. It was like 5, 6 days, almost exactly a week from that appointment to when she called me. And unfortunately, the answer was no. Or basically, the way she worded it was, we would not recommend an attempted TOLAC. She said the conditions that need to be most prevalent is basically if you had C-sections because you've had breech babies, or for some other reason that the pelvis has not been tested, was how she explained it to me. So since I had been through labor twice, my pelvis had been tested. It had not, it had not successfully birthed a baby either time. So they were not recommending my attempting TOLAC again. But she basically she said is we can't make you have a C-section. If you want to, we won't stop you, but you will have to sign a waiver, assuming all responsibility for whatever happens. I understand that. As it turned out, I had choice in the matter, but I didn't end up having too much choice in the matter in the long run. So we scheduled her C-section for Friday, October 4th. I was 39 weeks and 0 days at that point. I could pick 39 and 0 to 39 and 6. I picked 39 and 0 because it was easier to find childcare over the weekend, heading into the weekend, so I figured I'd be in the hospital 2-3 days. It might go into Monday, it might not, and then we'd be home. So we had that scheduled, and I think that was leading up to that, yeah, make sure I had no other notes. Other than the contractions, everything else went smoothly. We got to Thursday, October 3rd, the day before the scheduled C-section. My C-section was scheduled for 12:15, I believe it was, that day. I was supposed to be into the hospital at 10:15. And I get a phone call. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I got a phone call. It was one of the midwives from the midwifery. She was the one who was on duty in the hospital at that time, calling to tell me that their schedule for their C-section schedule on Friday was booked solid. It was full, and they had an emergent case that needed to be delivered the next day. I don't know any of the details of it. That's how it was said to me. And she said because I was the lowest risk of the mothers being delivered that day, I was the one who got chosen to be bumped. Which is how little Cassandra was born. Was actually born on Monday, October 7th. They scheduled me again for noon, and instead of 12:15, it was exactly noon, but 15 minutes difference. And had to arrive at 10. It was a scramble. Let me tell you, it was a scramble for the next 3 hours. Contacted my babysitters. Lady, she was supposed to come stay with them here at the house. So if you hear anything in the background, Nina is home because of Christmas break, and she's down there talking to one of her friends. So, oh, hello, Lulu. Now Libby's waking up. We'll be back. And we're back. We got Libby settled in her playpen now, little one. So hopefully it'll be a little less. There might be some noises in the background. I can say a little less, but there might be some noises in the background. Oh no. This is just a very good example of mom life. Do you want your binky? Having multiples. So where was I, if I can remember? Oh yes, the reschedule of the C-section. So it was a scramble. I did end up having to change babysitters at the last minute, but goodness, I have a wonderful good friend. She jumped in for me and was able to take them. She's another stay-at-home mom, and I kind of felt bad. She has 4 kids of her own, and here I'm giving her Libby and Bruce on top of that. Nina ended up staying with a relative on her mom's side of the family who could get her to and from school. So that was helpful. Okay, sorry, all the little interruptions. But yes, so we ended up being able to get our childcare resituated, and we get to the hospital Monday morning at 10. Get in, they do all the the preliminary lab work, get me hooked up to an IV. Oh my goodness, one thing before a scheduled C-section, because this was my first scheduled C-section, is I knew it was coming. They don't let you drink water for eat or drink anything, including water, for 12 hours ahead of time. So from midnight, the night before on, I had not even had a drop of water. So they have to get you hydrated once you get there. And I get it, they don't want you to have anything in your stomach, but you still need to be hydrated. So you have to go through, she put me, I think, 2 bags of IV fluids. And I almost, pregnancy brain, postpartum brain, whatever you want to call it, almost forgot a very important detail of something that was kind of ironic. About 6 a.m. that morning, Monday morning, about the same time it happened with Libby, I started having contractions. At first I was like, this is par for the course. I've been having this for weeks. It's fine. I'm about to go to the hospital later anyway. This isn't going to turn into labor. This is just what it always is. Prodromal labor. By the time I got to the hospital, my contractions were about 10 minutes apart and increasingly painful. I still was not convinced I was in active labor, or convinced I was in labor at all, because this is what my body does. I've had the prodromal labor, like the contractions, get as close to as 5 minutes apart, increasing in intensity, and then just suddenly stop. So I was still waiting for it to stop. Well, let's just say it never did. I let the nurse know what was going on. She put me on the monitor for a little bit. It's like, okay, fairly normal contractions, unless, she's like, since we're getting you in for a C-section anyway, we're not going to do any checks or anything unless you feel the urge to push. Okay. So I don't actually know how far along I progressed, but yes, after the second time they hooked me up to the monitors, they did say I was in an established labor. So I think that was the point where I was willing to accept, okay, this isn't prodromal, this is actually progressing. She's going to be born today either way. And so after they got my initial labs and everything hooked up, I think it was around 12:30 when they finally told me that part about being established in labor. Not really finally, but they told me that part. And she came back in and said that they were running behind on the scheduled C-sections. And the 9 a.m. girl who came in for her 9 a.m. C-section still had not gone back for hers. So I might be waiting a little while. So now I'm starting to think, well, this baby might come on her own before then, if I have to wait too long. We got back to the OR room for the spinal at 2:16. I did double check the OR notes about this. The spinal was placed at 2:16 p.m. And at that point, my contractions were about a minute and a half long and less than a minute apart. I really wish they would have checked me just so I would have known, but I understand they're trying to keep the area sanitary and free of contamination, so I totally get that. Understandable. So they placed the spinal. Obviously, I stopped feeling the contractions at that point. But yeah, getting up on the table, the OR table, to get the spinal placed was a multi-minute ordeal because of the contractions. It was, if you've ever been in labor, it's hard to move and walk when you're in super intensive, like that transition area part of labor. I was probably in past transition by that point. Anyway, so they get me all cleaned up, prepped, all that, and begin the C-section. So the spinal was placed at 2:16 p.m. She was born at 2:48 p.m., weighing 7 pounds and 2 ounces, by far my tiniest baby. Oh, I almost, I wanted to ask the nurse, are you joking? I don't have babies that little. To me, and I know it's a perfectly healthy, normal baby weight. Babies that are born at 6 ounces are considered healthy and normal. Or 6 pounds, excuse me, not 6 ounces. 6 pounds are considered healthy and normal. But my babies have always run big. Bruce was 9 pounds 1 ounce. Libby was 8 pounds 7 ounces, which I guess really isn't huge, but in comparison to 7 pounds 2 ounces, it's a good deal bigger. And I was blown away. And she has continued to be the smallest baby. At the point she is now, at almost 3 months old, Bruce was closing in on the 20-pound point. I don't remember where Libby was at this point. She's barely 11 pounds. So, she's growing, definitely, and she's healthy. But it's definitely a different experience, but every baby is. So, back to the C-section. I knew that from my experience with Bruce and Libby and just from research, watching other mommies' vlogs, all that every consecutive C-section does get longer because of scar tissue and other, reasons. Whenever it sometimes takes longer. Bruce's C-section in total took about 45 minutes. They were 2 within 10 minutes, had me sewed up and done in 45 minutes. Libby, it was closer to an hour and 15, hour and a half, somewhere in there. This little one, I left, let me see, I have it written down. I think I have that right. Yes. I left the OR completely sewed up and finished at 5:30 p.m. Just over 3 hours. Not quite 3.5, but just over 3 hours. From the time I walked into the OR to when I was being wheeled out to PACU recovery. It was a long 3 hours too. I was grateful though because this was my first C-section where I was fully rested and alert and awake. I did manage to get a full night's sleep the night before, and nerves aside, nerves included. And so I was perfectly alert and awake. And I was able to do my entire golden hour and her first feed right there on the OR table. I do have pictures of some of that, so I'll insert those here. And we came back, and she continued to eat well, really, really well. The first 24 hours, she ate every 45 minutes. I got no sleep for the first 24 hours of her life. Oh, sorry, baby girl. Trying to unwind it, and I pulled it out of your mouth. In my back. There we go. There we go. Beautiful girl. So yeah, her first 24 hours. Super long for mommy, but that's okay. That's just part of newborn life. I was going through, obviously, recovering from, the initial recovery from a C-section. I will say I hit all the checkpoints. Obviously, for one thing, I know what they are now, but I hit them all the fastest of any of my C-sections prior. when you're standing up for the first time, walking for the first time, peeing for the first time, all of that fun stuff. I hit it all the soonest in hers, but I think it's also because it was the third time. I knew that, par for the course. I knew what to expect. I knew it was coming. And overall, my recovery has been pretty par for the course. I have noticed, I was making a comment to Anthony, there's a point in the recovery, usually about a month and a half along, where I don't know what's going on, but it's been the same in all three of my postpartum experiences, where I just start, just walking around, I start to be able to just feel just the incision, like just where they cut. And with Bruce, that was just like, I hate this feeling. I need to put on my postpartum brace, even though I didn't need it at that point, but just for my mental, mental stability, I need to put that on so I don't feel it, because the counter pressure helped me feel that feeling a lot less, and it was just relieving. Whereas this time when that happened, I remember sitting on the couch the first time I felt it, and I was just like, oh, I know what that is. Okay. It was just kind of like, I acknowledged it, took it for what it was, and moved on. It wasn't nearly as hard mentally, and that probably also had a lot to do with the fact that I went into this delivery expecting to have a C-section. So that is the basic gist of what happened around Miss Cassandra's birth. I had the longest OR experience. Unfortunately, the spinal acid, they did have to give me a bolus. It was kind of like, I don't know what it was, but something they put in my IV after her golden hour. So it was close to the end of my surgery. Yes, I almost forgot one other. I'm glad I have notes. I really am. If you've been a mom, lack of sleep, hormones, whatever it is in postpartum that just makes you forget things. Same with pregnancy, hormones, all the fun stuff. Another reason, the way I know that we are not having children again, not having any more babies. I'm 99.999% positive. Obviously, you can never be 100% positive unless you're abstaining. But I did mention in my first video back that Anthony had gotten his vasectomy, and we had done the follow-up test. I always tell you, do the follow-up test for a vasectomy, make sure it's working, so you know that it worked and Dad's not producing anything more. Well, we ended up doing that, I think, 3 different times throughout the course of this pregnancy because it kept coming back inconclusive. And basically after the 3rd inconclusive, he called the doctor. It was like, what does inconclusive mean? Does that mean that, I am fertile, I'm infertile? Like, what is that? And basically what the doctor said was, you're not in, we can't say for sure that you're infertile because there is 0.08 sperm count. There's a 0.08. Whereas a healthy reproductive sperm count is in the 60%, like a 60% sperm. And he was 0.08. But even with such a low thing, they still couldn't tell him he was fully infertile. So I think we had done 2 of the follow-up tests at the time we were scheduling everything at the hospital for her birth. And the midwife had brought up, she asked if I wanted to have a tubal ligation done, so she knew this was my last and final, this was definitely our final baby, and they were not recommending I have another baby either after 3 C-sections. That's where they tend to be like, okay, you need to not have any more. And because I had to sign the consent form a month ahead of the scheduled date, I had to be signed a month before my scheduled C-section if I was going to be able to get it done. And we had just received the 2nd inconclusive result at that point. So I went ahead and signed the paper, the consent for that, just in case. In case that our 3rd test ended up coming back the same way. And he took, submitted the 3rd test a week before her scheduled C-section. And sure enough, it came back inconclusive. Same. And that was when he had hit the doctor, the urologist, and talked about it, basically what that meant. So they gave us, at the hospital, every opportunity to change our minds. They had me verbally state that I wanted the procedure done. They had my husband and Anthony confirm that he was okay with no more children. And we were both, at this point, completely ready to be done. And I'm certainly, oh my goodness, I do not want to go through another C-section. This last one took 3 hours. I really don't want to do another one. No. And I wouldn't have a choice this time. Like, it would absolutely be, I mean, I really feel like I had a choice last time. But anyway, all that to say, 4 kids, plenty of children, we're done. And so I think they came in, 3 different doctors came in while I was waiting to go back to the OR to confirm. And then the last one had Anthony confirm. And even in the OR, the anesthesiologist, again, had me confirm. When they were like reading through the summary of the visit and repeating it back to each other. If you've had a C-section, you know what I'm talking about, where they're telling each other all the details and confirming, and so everyone's on the same page. And even at that point, he had looked down and had me confirm I still wanted the tubal ligation. I said yes. So I've had a tubal ligation done. Anthony has had a vasectomy. Lord willing, it would be an extremely, but you know, I'm not going to say not even God can do it, because God can do everything. God can do anything. I'm not going to place that challenge. I am 99.999% certain we're not having any more children. So moving forward, that's our plan. Oh, precious, sweet little baby girl. Yeah. And so yes, that I think was the final detail. Let me just check my notes one more time. Make sure there's nothing else I wanted to talk about. Yep. Oh, the OR room number. Random. It's more just a funny thing. So Bruce and Libby were born in the same OR room in the same hospital, OR 3. And I asked when I went in if I could request the OR room, because it's the same hospital that Bruce and Libby were born at. And unfortunately the nurse said no. She's like, what OR did you want? And I said 3. And she's like, there is, like, my bag was like, there's someone in 3. We're doing you in 2. So I'm like, There are 3 ORs in the, you know, and the maternity ward at the hospital where I gave birth to all my babies. So Cassie was born in a different OR room, but that's just, you know, one of those random things. She was born in OR room 2, and Bruce and Libby were born in OR room 3. Yes, baby girl. But they're all 3 here, healthy, beautiful. Mom is here, doing great. Getting to that point of hopefully going to start feeling a little more like myself in the new year. I do once again, if you know my history, or you've been on my channel for a while, watch those previous videos, you know I've had a diastasis recti. I've heard this pronounced so many different ways. Diastasis recti, diastasis recti, whatever. The separation in the abs. Basically my abs are broken in all 3 of my pregnancies, if not really broken, but split apart. And I've had to do physical therapy for all of my babies, postpartum from all of them. And this time it was really deep. She said it was a really deep separation, and she would not recommend my going to just a regular physical therapist. She wanted me to see someone who specializes in postpartum and like prepartum and postpartum physical therapy, and you know, pelvic floor issues and all that. So I did a lot of research. I took my time finding a good place. The physical therapist I've seen before he is still in the same place. He's still functioning, but he is not a specialist in any way. So I did some research. I found a really good one with high recommendations, good reviews. It accepts my insurance, and I will be starting that on January 2nd. So 2025, I think one of my goals both goals for myself is just to get my body back in shape, build strength. I don't have any issues with weight, but just building strength. So now that I'm done having my babies, I can be there for them and have the energy to participate in their lives and as they grow up, and just be the best mommy I can be, as well as be the best person for me. That is one of my goals in the new year. I may come back and do a video just on what my goals and hopes and aspirations are for 2025. I'm not sure yet. But if I don't, that is probably one of my big ones, is just feel like I'm getting myself back. Breastfeeding, so that part, in that way, I won't have bodily autonomy, but that's okay. I very much enjoy breastfeeding. I was very sad when my milk dried up prematurely on Libby when I got pregnant with Cassandra, and I'm very much enjoying feeding her that way as well, and yeah, just being here with these wonderful little babies. So thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, share. If you know another mommy who might you have interest in this, please share it with them and consider subscribing if you're not subscribed. Thanks so much again for watching. Love you always. Bye.